20 students. I think 15 students have joined, I guess.
So the rest will join, right, eventually.
You can start the introduction.
Yeah. So a very good afternoon to all. So it's indeed a pleasure to us. We really feel privileged to have you, ma'am, with us today.
Thank you.
And as I have already said, she has been a long friend of mine, for last some 7 or 8 years. So it's for the students. I would like to introduce a bit. Shatarupa Sen is currently teaching linguistics and English language education at the School of Languages and Literature, Nalanda University. She has completed her master's and doctoral dissertation in linguistics from the English and Foreign Languages University. Her doctoral research concerns socio-phonological documentation of Sylheti and Eastern Indic language in the northeastern India and Bangladesh. She specializes in the fields of theoretical linguistics, sociolinguistics, and language teaching for adult learners. Her area of research includes language and cultural conservation with the help of linguistic documentation and description. So it's all yours, ma'am. So you may please begin. And we all are patiently waiting for your lecture.
Oh no, that's thank you so much, and please don't make it sound so formal and everything, because anyway, so rather than giving just a lecture and rather than making it at one-sided, I would really like, how do you pronounce these words? Everybody, see the chat box and tell me how you pronounce this word.
You can unmute yourself and tell the answer.
Anyone?
Range of us.
And the next word. Yes, Rahul?
Genre.
Genre. And anyone else?
John.
Okay. Yes, Somnath?
John.
John. Okay, so the first word, we pronounce it as rendezvous. And the second word, well, we can hear a lot of pronunciation these days, like genre, genre, etc., etc. But the pronunciation is genre. So now these two words, we see these words and many more words such these in our day-to-day language, the way we speak, and when we talk about films and books and literature, we talk about different genres. So here it's important to notice that these words do not really fit into the typical English word that we speak. Well, we are not L1 speakers. L1 means we haven't really grown up speaking English as our first language. For some, it's second or third or fourth language. So basically, we haven't acquired English, we have learned English. However, intuitively, we can find that these words don't really fit into the category of our regular words, like the way we speak, like I'm speaking. So here we can understand that these words must have come from somewhere else, right? So these words are French influence on English. So like we have French words, we have different other words, and the most impact English language has in terms of vocabulary, or not vocabulary, I would rather say lexicon, is of Romance languages. And what are Romance languages, you would ask? The Romance languages are those who have come from, who have influenced the Roman languages, such as Italian, French, Germanic languages, etc., are Romance languages, and they have the most impact on English language. So, if we try to understand that how the modern English that we speak these days, so this is actually, you know, it's pretty analytic language. Like it is relatively uninflected. You know about inflection in languages, right? So Romans languages are heavy on inflection. So if you want to learn French or Spanish, the first thing the teacher tells you is like, learn verbs and its inflection. If you don't know the inflections, you can't make the so you can't make sentences. Well, English does have inflections, but not so much. For example, we say with third person singular number, he or she goes, s or es is added with the verb. So this is one small example. So when we see English, Old English or Middle English, we can see that that English in that period was heavy with inflections, but modern English is relatively uninflected. And it comes from Proto-Indo-European language family. It's like, and which is actually the root of most other Romance languages. And that is how English has sort of developed as an influence of all these languages along with the native that was spoken at that part of the country, that part of the continent rather, in Europe. Okay. So, and if we see how English has developed, it has developed throughout thousands of years, I would say. Okay, so now it is simplified with inflection, and we can see the influence of even Sanskrit, Chinese, Vietnamese in modern day English. So, for example, think about when we think closely, we can feel there are a lot of German and Chinese words as well, like, that revolves around the word English noun man. For example, German has 5 forms: man, M-A-N-N, manes, mane, maner, maneren, and Chinese has one form, ren. So here that ren goes and mixes with German, and now in English, we can see that it stands in between. For example, man, M-A-N, plural, M-E-N. And if we want to say as what should I say, possessive, when we attach apostrophe s, M-A-N apostrophe s, mans, and men's, like men's section. So in that, we can see that, like, it stands somewhere in between. But again, the inflection of ren, we can find that is in Chinese, we can find that in English as well in terms of children, oxen. Okay, so these are very basic facts, very basic facts and trivia about the modern English that is today. So that is very interesting that in English only nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and verbs are inflected. Okay, for example, in case of nouns, we can see the apostrophe, that is possessiveness, and in case of pronoun, him, his, he, her, hers, she. Adjectives, we can find the relative degree. So these all are, and for verbs, this is we have the classic example, third person singular. So these are the classic examples of the inflections that are left in modern languages, modern versions of English. Now we can see that English is developing every day. The way we speak now, probably in 90s, we were not speaking the same way because, well, again, different words are coming into English, and as the days are progressing, depending upon the socio cultural aspects, the new words are seeping in. For example, you can see selfie. Selfie is a big part in all the major dictionaries now. So, however, so that is so we can actually understand that with all these things together, English is making changes every day. And different influences, the influences from different languages have made English very rich and is still continuing to make it richer. Okay, now I'm going to uh, divide the divide today's class in different aspects. So we will think of like different aspects of modern English, and we'll try to see how the other languages have influenced that particular aspect of English, so that we can understand things in a better way. Okay. So the first thing that goes is, so okay, let me ask you this thing. When you think about a language, what is the very first thing that comes to your mind? Anyone? Please. Anyone, please?
A source of communication.
Okay, communication. So how do you communicate? How do you communicate? What is the basic form of communication? Speaking, right? And when we are speaking, what is the very important thing that we need to be careful about when we speak? Well, when we speak, we need to care about the grammar, the sentence structure, whether the sentence structure is correct or not, and pronunciation. So, Mona Lisa, if you are there, can you tell me which one do you think is more important? The pronunciation or whether you are grammatically correct?
Ma'am, I think the grammar is more important.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Dipanvita, you tried to answer the previous question. What do you think is more important? To be absolutely grammatically correct or to pronounce correctly? Which is more important?
Ma'am, I think. Sorry.
Thank you, Somnath. Dipanvita?
ম্যাম গ্রামারটাই ঠিক, কারণ প্রনাউন্সিয়েশনটা তো মানে যে কোনো কিছু করাই যেতে পারে।
Okay. Somnath,
সবাই
you will.
সবাই তো প্রপার ওয়েতে প্রনাউন্স করতে পারে না ম্যাম।
Somnath?
Ma'am, I think the pronunciation is more appropriate because if we do not pronounce actually rightly, then the speaker to whom we are addressing, they will not be able to understand what we are saying. Right.
Well, good idea. And we have three different opinions. Okay, let's see. Uh, let's consider a situation. You meet a person who's not a native speaker of English, probably third language, fourth language, and that person just tells you, I go there tomorrow. So, do you understand that? Can you understand what the person is trying to say? I go there tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am. Understandable, but it is hard to
Yes,
understand.
I go there tomorrow. So, well, the pronunciation is sort of topsy-turvy, and as well as the grammar. But at the same time, when the person is not using the future form, will, I'll go there tomorrow, yet it is understandable. With tomorrow, that person is indicating the future time, right? But think about these two sentences. He is important, and he is important. He's important and he's important.
ম্যাম প্রোনাউন্সিংটা বেশি ইম্পর্ট্যান্ট।
Yes. I mean, we are sort of making question on a man's certain uh, biological prowess with only omission of one R. So yes, it is important for us to take care of the pronunciation as well. So here, let's talk about, like, the sounds of modern modern English, and how different languages have influenced it.
Like, ma'am, I can give you an example. We go together, okay,
Okay,
and we go to get her.
yes. We go to get her. So here, and we go together. So here, a lot of other things in play that are in play. For example, stress, intonation, etc., etc. Okay, so we'll come to that some other time, maybe if we have time. Okay, so now, so if we see, like, the major English speaking world, so they try to follow this received pronunciation, that is somewhat British pronunciation, that we called RP, received pronunciation, and it is sort of uh, traditionally defined as one of the standard accent throughout this English speaking world. So however, I have a little issue with that, because I don't really deem anything as standard and non-standard variety. But anyway, for the sake of the world peace, it has been considered as one of the, like, standard varieties, so that people can understand and everything. So it is sort of considered as a prestige accent, and institutions as civil service and BBC, so they use this accent. So now, if we try to see the difference among this RP and American English, and such as Western New England, that is derives, or popularly that we call, like, a normal American accent. That is, like, we have the difference lies in vowels and diphthongs. Okay. Anyone who knows what is a diphthong? Okay, leave that. Now, can you tell me how many vowel sounds are there in English? Anyone?
Ma'am, basically there are five vowels, and some of the semi vowels are there.
Okay, I'm asking vowel sounds. Okay, so the five vowels that you talked about is the vowel that we see in alphabet. They are the written form, not the spoken. Okay, so if we think that how many vowel sounds in English, we have actually a lot more vowel sounds. Okay, rather than just A, E, I, O, U. For example, think of the word apple. How would you say apple? A. So actually, English has lot more vowel sounds. Okay. For example, we English has long E. For example, bee or beach, ski, and short E. For example, busy, big, England, short E. Short U as full, full, and long U as fool. So here there is a difference between long and short vowel, different types of vowel. I'm not asking about vowel in orthography. I was talking about vowel sounds anyway. And students, you don't need to take notes. I'll drop the notes with your teacher, Mr. Krishano Adhikari. He can distribute it to you, today's lecture notes. So don't worry, just listen, and I would really appreciate if you participate. Okay. And diphthongs are when two vowel sounds join together to make a bigger sound. For example, in Bangla also we have like A, Oi, A. Like for example, there is chair. This is a chair. So, chair, air, 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 air. So both there were two distinct vowel sounds, and they mixed together to make a very a different, which is a little longer, a little stronger than the individual vowel sounds. So they so these are called diphthongs. There are triphthongs as well when three vowel sounds join together, but the instances are rare. Anyway, so we were talking about the sound system of phonology, sound system of modern English, so that we can talk about it. Okay. So sometimes what happens is in American English there is initial woo sound, which we write with W and ends with yeah, whereas in British English, they are not the words with like o sound. They are pronounced as cot, box, dock, hot, not, like this. Not in our languages, probably in like different Indian varieties, we speak as, sorry, not, dock, hot, etc., etc. So this is not very uh, in English, in the received pronunciation that we can see in American. So here we have, we need to make a distinction between like, the American English and the received pronunciation. And it is you who needs to choose that. What do you want to follow? Because, well, where one side you have history and academics and power, another side lies money. So, yep, choose wisely. But okay, but whatever but then from American influence, uh, the syllable stress has come from American. So here, such as bud, cut, but, rung, these have a very strong central vowel. Okay, and the last syllable is stressed, unstressed. For example, sofa. So how would you pronounce that? Sofa. One or two syllables? Okay, sorry again. Any idea about syllables? Okay, to understand syllables well, you can put your hand here under your chin and try to pronounce your individual names. Come on, please unmute yourselves. Please unmute yourselves and try to pronounce your names. The teachers, would you please like to show the way?
All of you were there. The students, where are they? Mona Lisa, Preeti, Somnath, Soheli, where are they? Are you all there at all? Are you listening to her or not?
Well, for example, I'll take my name, Shatarupa. So here, I can feel that my vocal cord is giving me 4 jumps. So in this way, whenever we pronounce a word, we can feel that the word is divided. So here, so these small divisions are syllables. Syllables are bigger than individual sounds, but smaller than words. So the syllable stress, the end, uh, earlier in older English, the end syllable of the 2-syllable words were stressed. But in modern English, because of the influence of American English, which is again another influence of Spanish, the stress on the second syllable, especially of nouns, is going away. Okay, so this is one of the influences on today's English. Okay, another quiz time. How many consonant sounds are there in English? You can actually see Wikipedia.
What, Somnath?
Ma'am, there are many consonant sounds are there.
How many consonant sounds are there in English?
Ma'am, I do not know the exact number, but some of the like P, B, these are.
Okay, so there are 24 consonant sounds in English. Okay, so for example, in Old English, because of the influence of French, there was the concept of like rouge. For example, word R-O-U-G-E. Rouge, not rouge, it's rouge. The tongue curls up. So that was an influence of uh, French. That is why there is this uh, very famous movie, Moulin Rouge, right? So that was there. So these were an influence of French on English. So when we see that the most influence of French is in the pronunciation domain. Okay, so what I'll do right now is I'll show you a chart. Who Krishanu or can you please make me the host or co-host so that I can share? I can share the screen. Well, never mind.
Meenakshi, are you there? Please please help ma'am to share her screen.
It's okay, never mind. I'm dropping the chart in the chat section. Everyone, please open it. Sorry, technical difficulties. Never mind. So, looks like it's not going in the chat either. So what you can do is you can just go and see IPA chart on your other screen if possible. So there you can see that there are different sounds which were a very big part of English language until probably a century back, and which is not there right now. So, and if we see the modern day Italian or French, these two languages have the most impact of English. So those are not really there, but there are still certain words that sound is still felt. For example, door. When we say door, we don't say door. Or if we say door with r as very soft sound, that, well, that's not RP anyway. So the RP still reserves that particular sound for certain words. But in general, the sounds are actually going away. Similarly with dark L, l. But here we have a classic example of that sound that we still preserve in the form of bottle, kettle. Okay, so these certain sounds show the influence of French on English. Now you would ask how the French has such big impact on English language. For that, we would have to go back to history because of that. Because has always been embroiled with different regions or different countries in different battles. The battles are devastation, and they are bad. Battles and fights are bad. But there is something good that comes with battles as well, and that is the language of both the parties get really rich, and of course that comes. Okay, thank you. Screen share button is now available. Thank you so much. Sorry. So with these battles, you can obviously look it up, or tomorrow actually I'm going to talk to you about the history and the battles would come. But today, just let's know that they were into different battles and wars, and outer and as another outcome of these wars have been that English language has got different new features from the other languages that it was in contact with. Well, there were lots of invasions as well, and invasions have their own impact. Like, for example, if we think about India, the Mughal invasion has given us Urdu, Persian, and it has actually made different languages in India much richer in terms of lexicon, in terms of words, vocabulary, etc. Similarly, in the British invaded India, and we are speaking in English today. So that is how, with every invasion, every battle, every war, uh, there is there is a lot of impact on the daily life, of course, but a big impact can be seen in terms of language as well. So that is how English has so much of influence of French in its pronunciation. Now, if you know, if you think of the way we speak, when we speak in sentences, or when we pronounce words, you can feel that, like, when in sentences, some parts are more pressured, and some are lesser. For example, let's consider this particular sentence. I bought a new bottle. 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 So here in these 4 sentences, we can see that different other words have more emphasis, more pressure on that. So in layman term, we call it pressure, but actually these are stress. Like, with stress, we want to emphasize that, like, okay, this part is more important, or it actually defines the meaning of the sentence. So similarly, in every word, for example, every word, we have one particular syllable that has more stress. For example, well, we took important and important. So important, 3 syllables. Which one is more stressed? The middle one. Okay, so important, not important. So it becomes important, whatever. So it is important. So here we can see that in sentences and in words, we have stress. So this stress is, we can find the similar characteristics in Russian. Okay, in Russian, I'll not go into technical terms of, like, primary stress or secondary, tertiary, weak, these things and all. So just know that these it is a shared feature with Russian, which actually shows that, like, well, there was there was approximation, there was communication between 2 languages, 2 culture, and hence the Old English, which was not really very fond of syllables and stress, but the modern English is completely is a stress time is a syllable time language, and it has very stress factor. So here we can find that, like, the influence of Russian on modern English. However, how can we forget French when it comes to pronunciation, any parts of pronunciation? So there are some borrowed words which we still use in English. Well, they became a part of English repertoire anyway, like, bizarre, critic, duress, hotel, prestige, technique. They rather follow the pattern of French stress system than English stress system. So here we can find that, well, the concept of stress that is so prevalent in English these days, that actually probably was there, but it was very less. But with with friendship with, because of friendship with Russian languages or interaction with the Russian language, English now enjoys such a strong syllable and stress pattern, and also that French still reserves some words and the way they are pronounced, its stress system. Okay, and that shows the influence of the languages. Okay, so there is something called pitch and intonation. Okay, so when we talk about pitch, pitch is like, high pitch, low pitch, and intonation. With intonation, we can actually express a lot of things that are not really spoken in sentences. So these are called metalinguistic metalinguistic aspect, and with the help of metalinguistic aspect, the speaker can express express, like, what is the mood or what is the intention. For example, you know it, don't you? So when I say, like, you know it, don't you? So when I say this, don't you, it's like, I'm sort of looking down upon you that you don't know these things. Okay, so, well, I'm not doing that, but I try to give it give it as an example of stress and sorry, intonation and pitch, so that just a simple sentence, which otherwise very harmless, becomes problematic. And if you know that a different pitch and different intonation, you can actually understand what the person is actually trying to say rather than just trying to portray. Okay. Okay, much more about pronunciation. Now let's talk. Let's think about some grammar. So what is the very first thing that I talked to you about, like, different influence of other languages on English? What was the very first term that I used? Can anyone tell me? The very first example that I gave.
Rangeivus.
I'm sorry, Somnath?
Rangeivus.
Rendezvous? No, not that. Those are, well, those are the pronunciation aspect. When I was talking about, like, some grammar difference, what was the first thing that I gave example of? Okay, trivia time. When you try to learn a foreign language, what does the teacher first ask you to learn? Hint, verbs, and next. Number 1, verbs. Number 2, inflections. Okay, so now let's talk about inflection. inflection, I gave you the example of the third person singular S or ES. Whereas Old English, which had more pronounced influence of other Romance languages, was full of inflection. This modern day, we have very, very few. It's almost non-inflectional. It's on the way to become non-inflectional, probably in 50 years, or 50 years is a little, I don't know, the way English is actually progressing. We might actually be inflectionless language one day. However, uh, if we talk about today, we still have this very few inflections. So let's talk about the inflections. So most English nouns have this plural inflection, that is S or ES. I'm not talking about the verb inflection. I'm talking about the noun inflection, S or ES, that is plural. For example, cat, cats, dog, DOGS. But do we pronounce it? How do we pronounce it? With an S or with a Z? With a Z. Dogs. Okay, so here, and also there are mutated plural. The mutated plural we say is the plural. We do not add S or ES. For example, man, men, woman, women, tooth, teeth, foot, feet, goose, geese, mouse, mice, louse, lice. And also we have ox, oxen, child, children, brother, brethren. So here we can find that, like, different in plural system itself, we have different sort of plural system. For example, one, we use S or ES, and then we use mute, and then this ren. The same example we can find in Chinese also. When the Chinese use Mandarin, especially Mandarin variety, they use ren as a technique of making it plural. Well, let's talk about Chinese language for some other time, because Chinese has a very different, they don't really abide by a lot of grammatical rules. They have characters for representing everything. They have different words for different everything. And they don't even call them words. They call them characters. Okay, so here we can find that 3 different endings for indicating plural. And in case of personal pronouns, we can find, like, there are different forms for subject and object positions. For example, he becomes him, she becomes her, and adjectives have big, bigger, biggest, all these. And then there we have even irregular forms, that is good, better, best. So we know that English is a Germanic language. So why do we say it as a Germanic language? We call English as a Germanic language because it, when we think about, like, the different grammatical form, the grammatical forms are much more, grammatical rules and everything is much more, have much more in common with Germanic structure of Germans, and hence it has Germanic it shows a lot of Germanic influence. Even when we think about, like, how English language has developed with from Old English to Middle English to Modern English, again, for everything you need to think about, well, whenever there have been the changes, it's the result of invasion, wars, battles. Okay, so that is how the modern English has developed all these, whereas Old English had much more, and modern English is left with only these. Okay, so Similarly with affixation, we have in English, modern English, prefix and suffixes. Do any of you know about infix? So what is prefixes? Like for example, take the word condition. When we say conditionally, then we add something at the end of condition and it becomes conditionally. So that when we add that, that is called suffix. And when we add unconditionally, so this un is prefix. In English, we can now see only prefix and suffixes. But till Middle Ages, we had infixes. That is, you could actually break up two syllables of English word and insert an inflection in between and add that. That is a very Germanic feature which was there in English. Thankfully, it's not there anymore. Imagine the confusion that might have been there. Anyway. Okay. Okay. Think of this. So when you okay, so tell me how many of you do online shopping?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
A lot. So when you do online shopping and the person is coming to deliver you things, how do you describe your address?
Ma'am, I actually give a landmark that there is a temple or there is a, I mean, a pond near thing something, or there is a club, and he comes and calls me that yes, I am here and you can come now.
Exactly. So the landmark, you give a landmark, right? What do you think? What kind of a word this landmark is? Hmm?
Sorry, ma'am, I don't know.
Okay, so when we think about landmark, uh, don't you feel that, like, these are two different words brought together?
Yes, ma'am, land and mark.
Yes. Okay. So this land and mark, these two have been brought together and they make landmark. So this is because this happens because of composition or making compound words. The very common compound words we use, like, sorry, homepage or gentleman or housebound. Well, during this corona period, we all are housebound, right? So these are compound words, and compound words is a new form that has developed into English after Middle Ages, and you can find the similar feature in German. For example, we have uh, compound words like life-giving or heart-rendering, fact-finding, painstaking, time-consuming. All these words, these actually, like, come directly from German, like uh, Lebenspendent, that is life-giving. So there are a lot more examples which shows that, like, at one point of time when it started as, like, some particular words that came directly from German, and now it has developed as a feature of English language that English has now compound words. Okay, so we never know that in some way, in some years, probably selfistic will become a compound word. Still, it is written as hyphenated together. It hasn't got the status of being a compound word, but maybe in a year or two it will also get. So that is how this feature of compounding words has come from Germanic languages. Similarly, other word formation processes such as back formation, blending. So back formation is actually reverse of affixation. Affixation, in case of affixation, we add either in front or at the back or in the middle of a original word. But in case of back formation, we actually clear it out. So, and in English language, back formation is extremely common. For example, do you know the word commute? It actually came from commuter. The original word was commuter, but in modern day English, modern day as in the modern age English, has made applied the back formation process and made commute out of commuter. The commuter that the language that the word was has brought commute. Now it was a debate how the word man and women come from, but some people would be astonished to hear that actually the terms for man and woman were very different. Men were not even called men. Okay, it was a very different word. Old English, like, very, very old English. But actually, the word man came as a back formation from women. Yeah, that's interesting. So this back formation is again a influence of German. Similarly, we can find the example of blending as well. Okay, and also shortening and quotation. These are also where some of the techniques of Germanic languages are seen in English, even in modern day English as well, modern English of modern times, and it shows the influence of German. Okay, now when we were talking about the grammatical rules, sentence structure, and everything, there were people who were like, very strongly advocated for, like, okay, the grammar should be correct. Yes, Meenakshi, it is interesting. I'll drop the notes and facts with Krishanu, and Krishanu sir will can distribute it to all of you. I'm sorry, today I could have dropped it on chat, but I had to upload the paper and it sort of took me out of here. I hope Krishanu sir won't mind distributing the notes.
No, you can just WhatsApp me and I'll just forward this to
Yeah,
my
I'll
students.
do a little bit
students.
of changes and I'll do that. And
Yeah, sure.
don't worry, I'll not put all of you keep here too long. Okay. So those who were very staunchly supporting, like, the sentence structure, you would be happy to know that, like, the syntax of English syntax is extremely Germanic in nature. Okay, SVO pattern, that subject verb object pattern that we can see in modern day English. Think about, like, if you have read Chaucer or the early works of Shakespeare, you can find that, like, it was not very much, there was not very strict adherence to subject, verb and object pattern. But nowadays it is uh, extremely rigid about, like, this pattern. And well, this is clear, very clear Germanic influence. So it's in terms of pronunciation, English has the most influence of French. In terms of grammatical rules, it is Germanic. And in terms of words, it's from all over the world. It is said that at one point of time, not it is said, the history shows us that at one point of time, the sun never set in the British Kingdom. And while they kept on invading and conquering countries after countries, the countries actually conquered at least a part of them, as they infiltrating into their language. So that is how the different countries English was in contact with. They gave so many words. And even our very own Mr. Shashi Tharoor, he's coining words left, right, and center, and you can find a lot of words that he coined in his Great Indian Novel. It is actually the words are actually in circulation now. For example, prepone. So prepone, we always in English, the British English had postpone, but there was never a concept of prepone. Probably because, like, things get delayed, things never happen earlier than expected. So this prepone was is an example of Indian influence on English. And also you can see the word shampoo and shampoo comes from the word champu, which means head massage. Okay, one of the very basic words that we use in everyday languages are, like, the relationship terms, like, for example, father, mother, brother, not sister. Okay, man, wife, ground. These are, like, basic relationship terms that we use in every other day, in every other sentence. So these words have a very generic common status across the Germanic languages. For example, Germanic and Indo-Aryan languages, and Germanic has some had some contact with Indo languages, and hence padre, father, pitra, we can find this common. But we can find this, like, some linguistic similarity, but Scandinavian languages uh, show that they distinctly had this words: father, mother, brother. Sister was not found. Probably they were not very fond of sisters. Anyway, so these shows that, like, there are evidence of Scandinavian language, Scandinavian influence on English. The modern day verbs like bring, come, get, hear, meet, see, set, sit, speed, stand, think. Adjectives like full, not fool, full, wise, different color terms, which was not very much, like, in English repertoire, that came from Scandinavia. So, for example, the word gray. If you read about, like, early literature and everything, there was not much mention of the term gray as color. Probably because the society at that point of time was not much fond of the the color, and the color terms is very much related to the different social aspects such as taboos and beliefs, ethos. So this color term gray is also comes from Scandinavian languages. Okay, so there are a lot of examples. One of the thing is like, you know, this concept of in-laws, like we call the marital family as like, you know, the in-laws, like brother-in-law, father-in-law. So it has been observed that in early Scandinavian languages they had that, like, you know, this in-law system, and that is how which meant, like, you know, brother outside law, and that is how that the concept and the language actually is borrowed from Scandinavian. And let's not talk about, like, you know, the influence of French in English. It's if we really try to see the etymology of the words that we speak in English these days, we can find at least 40% that the etymologically are French. So, well, English has a huge debt to French to pay. Well, let's not pay, because these borrowing and mixing that makes languages rich. So, for example, if you think about, okay, who among you are fan of Regency literature? Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen, anyone?
Yes, ma'am. The text is in our syllabus for semester.
Oh, great. So there you can find, like, you know, different terms as count, countess, viscount, and all that. Marquis, duke, baron, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So those are, like, you know, so those were social standing. I mean, those were like a pretty high ranked social class. So those terms came from French. The French monarchy had those positions, and that was later, that was similar with English monarchy system as well, but not the words king and queen. Okay, king and queen are very English, but all these other things, like, you know, this social class, the social system, that came from French. Probably the idea also came from French, but that is a discussion about from for another day. So here, in case of so these are there goes the, like, you know, literature and normal day. But if we think about, like, you know, the innovation, the science terms, they are basically from Greek. The reason probably is that the Greeks were the pioneers in research and development, and hence now when we see any research or innovation, or in terms of science and philosophy, much of the terms, much of the words that we use are from Greek. So Greek and Latin, actually. For example, think about metamorphosis. It came from Greek. Transformation, redundant, that we use today, that is that came from Latin. Now, these words were not really used just the way we use as, like, the metamorphosis, transformation, like that. That was not really used in Greek and Latin, but they have gone through changes, gone through some changes throughout history, and because of the pronunciation of English speaking people, not all, not everyone can pronounce every sound. For example, for the Bengali speaker, it is really, it sometimes is very difficult to learn a Dravidian language like Kannada or Malayalam, because they have different they have a different sound system altogether, and not everyone not and it takes a lot of time and patience and practice to to produce sounds from other languages. For example, uh, this time, please someone speak. How would you pronounce this particular word?
Tamil.
Okay, thank you, Somnath. Anyone? Tithi, Twinkle, Deepa,
Tamil.
Tamil. Okay, so here we are saying Tamil, but the speaker of that language would call it as Tamil. It's very different, right? So here we know that different language speakers uh, produce sounds in different ways. That is because, like, it's probably because our tongue and our mouth are set in particular ways, so that is why use calling it Tamil, but a Tamil speaker would call it as Tamil, right? So that is how these Greek and Latin words have gone through changes, and now these are very much part of English vocabulary because of the change in sounds. So that happens. Think of that development as a post-embryonic development, like tadpole becomes a frog, a cocoon becomes a silkworm, and then uh, a worm becomes a butterfly. So this is like, this is called post-embryonic development, and this is how the very old the words borrowed from very old languages have gone through changes and become, and they are what we pronounce today as. So just remember that technology of geology, mineralogy, literature, philosophy, and psychology, we have lots and lots of German, high German words in terms of science, such as physics, and philosophy. We have a lot of words from Latin and Greek, and music. The music terms come from Italian and Spanish. When you see the words and you think about, like, how their association, you can actually find the nativity of the words. For example, tornado, vanilla, cigar, gallon, armada, cannibal, matador, gorilla. These words came from Spanish. And you must know that, like, the Spanish and England had this a lot of sea treaty, and that is how the most sea related words actually have Spanish influence. So when you come across a word and you think about where it came from, try to think about its association. Where is this word associated with? And think about the history. That is how you would know that where it came from. Well, that is how we can actually go on and on. That how Arabic has influence like alchemy, alcohol, elixir, mosque, sugar, syrup, zenith, these words. And also Arabic has the word lufa that we use every day, lufa. And we have English with a word like hallelujah or messiah or rabbi, sabbath. We have the influence of Hebrew language, and that is how English is actually full of influence of other languages. Okay, very sorry. I took more than an hour. I told your teachers that I'll take 1 hour, but then this topic is so interesting, and I was just not able to contain myself. And thank you all the students for being so patient, and thank you to the teachers.
Thank you, Satyapa. And now I would like to, ask Meenakshi to say a few words.
Okay. Thank you so much. And really, it was a really enlightening lecture, and we are really grateful to have such an erudite scholar and teacher among us. Um, and I really feel, and I think my colleagues also share this view, that this is such a student friendly lecture, and I hope that our students really enjoy it. Um, I would like to actually ask the students that if you have any query, any question, then please ask, ma'am. This is a golden opportunity. And meanwhile, okay. So shall I take the questions and speak out the questions here?
If sure.
Yeah, okay. So Shomnath is asking that, ma'am, will you please tell Sanskrit influence on English language? He wants to know about the Sanskrit influence on English language.
Oh, well, of course, as I said, that there are different words that came from different other languages that English was part of. Yeah, I mean, English came in contact with. So if you think about, like, the Indian words that came into English, that is some of the words actually are directly taken from Sanskrit, because most of the Indian languages is, if not directly, but some way or the other, is derived from Sanskrit. So if you think, like, very basic, I mean, avatar, the words like avatar, it came from avatar. So there are lots and lots, like, we say basmati, bandana, bangle. Bandana came from bandhana. Uh, bangle, this came from Bengali. So that is how lots and lots of uh, words that is there in Indian languages that came from Sanskrit somewhere or the other, that seeped into English.
Well, I'm not sure, but I heard that the word English word father, somehow it is influenced from the
Of course,
Sanskrit
that
word pater, from pater, pita to pater and then father. I heard
that
that. I don't know.
that is what I'm saying, that, like,
Yeah.
there are certain words that enjoy that enjoys the privilege of, like, becoming this linguistic universal. And if we think about one particular time period, and we can see that in Germanic languages, in Romance languages, in Scandinavian languages, like, this particular father, mother, this pitra, matra, padre, these collated words existed. So we can't really say for sure that
Yeah,
this
these are
word came
debatable. these are debatable.
Yes, these came from that and that, but recent findings have found that, like, the modern day father is much more closer, with Scandinavian. That was form of father.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So
Meenakshi, take the next question then.
example,
Yeah.
another question I found, that is meta language a metaphor?
Yeah.
So Deepa, what do you understand about meta language? So meta language is the language we are using to talk about another language. But well, here we are talking in English to talk about English. But at the same time, we are also talking about French and German and Scandinavian and other different languages. So the vehicle, that is, you if I have talked about Italian, or let's say different language altogether, a machine language, like, think about, if I talked about R today, if I speak to you in terms of 0 and 1, nobody will understand. But here I'll use a human language such as English to talk about the computer language R. So here the English language that talks about our language is meta language. Now, what is metaphor? Deepa, can you give me an example of metaphor? You asked me the question.
This is very disappointing. You are studying English literature and you cannot give an example of a metaphor. Please unmute yourself.
Anybody else who knows what's a metaphor? Please tell, ma'am.
Deepa, you asked me that, is meta language a metaphor? Do you what do you think about metaphor? Can you give me an example of metaphor?
Ma'am, heart of a lion, have a heart of stone.
I'm sorry?
Heart of a lion.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand. Can you just type it in the
Ma'am,
chat box?
ma'am, variety is the spice of life.
I'm sorry, probably the
Ma'am,
network is
This
not
is
that
epigram.
great.
This is an example of an epigram.
Can you just type? I'm asking Deepa, and Nabonita has also answered, so I would like them, if they can. Type heart of a lion. See here again, here it actually proves my point that pronunciation is important. Somebody was saying hurt, like heart or something. I was thinking, like, somebody has got like a hurt. So heart and hurt, different things. Anyway, so if we think about, by definition, metaphor isn't it a sort of a figure of speech? So which we use to it might be a word or a phrase that we use to denote, like, very suggestively, without really saying the particular thing, like, heart of a lion means very brave, something like that. So here it clears it out. Meta language is the vehicle that we use to talk about another language, and metaphor is a suggestive expression. Okay, I hope it's clear, Deepa. Don't go by only meta. Meta language, metaphor are different.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any more questions from the students? Meanwhile, they ask the question, as we have such a good language expert among us, I can't control my temptation to ask one question.
Yeah,
If you
sure.
please. Actually, this has been mine for a long time that in today's time, and it's not about today, this trend of infiltration and osmosis has always been there, one language borrowing from the other. So, in such a situation, where do we posit the notion of authenticity of language?
See, the idea of authenticity of language, I feel it's like, very and Puritan and archaic.
Okay.
Language, think of language as a living, breathing entity. The moment language starts to adhere to that, like, okay, will not let anyone come, it starts to die.
Yes, but don't you think that there is always a threat to lose the identity that one particular
Yes,
language?
of course,
I would
there
like
is.
to add with Meenakshi. I would like to, sorry for interfering. I would like to add with Meenakshi. What do you think? Don't you think that the American slang is affecting the authenticity of English language?
I'll first speak about Meenakshi's, and then I'll talk to you. Okay, Meenakshi, could you please continue with your question?
Yes, so I think there is always this constant threat that every language faces uh, regarding this infiltration from the other languages.
I will
So,
say influence.
yeah,
Okay, anyway, I got your point. Yes, where to draw the line and how to ensure that the language is alive.
yeah.
Language stands alive. So it has to do a lot. It has to do a lot of with the way with the way the language speakers think. It has to deal with the prestige. So, as we were speaking in the morning today, actually, a language starts to take a little back foot, and probably, like, the other language identities completely cover that language identity when the speakers themselves are not uh, do not feel uh, do not feel the pride in their language, because of course with every language comes certain expression, ethnicity, and culture, and also, like, the ancient knowledge system. So while it is very important that we should open the doors, but it's not that we'll leave everything, we'll let everything go out. Well, it's more of, like, think about in the economics term, the liberalization. In terms of when India opened the door, it means that, like, India let other countries do business in India, and that is how India got richer in terms of money and everything. But at the same time, we could have, I don't know whether we really held on to our uh, which were the industries that were really profit making, but some of the industries we did hold on to.
Yeah, of course.
So in that way, that, like, the really interesting features of that language, we should really hold on to, and we should rather practice and encourage the younger generation to practice them. But at the same time, the way the way the society progresses, with changing times, different words are bound to come. And if you just stop or close all the doors and windows, it's just will drive the young generation away. So to ensure that the language actually lives, we need to welcome other words as well, other expressions. But if we keep on giving the traditional knowledge without imposing, rather than making it interesting for the young learners as uh, something to be proud of, something to be uh, carry on, something as a heirloom, something that the person can carry on, and also, like, entrust with further generations. So in that way, like, a little exchange, a little other influence, a little adherence to our own, and that is how I feel we can revive a language that has taken a backseat, or we can ensure that a language will.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, Mr. Mondal. Mr. Mondal.
I just got your answer, ma'am. Meenakshi mentioned about the threat of the infiltration that is affecting the authenticity of English language. So I was talking about the American slang, which is very popular to the younger generation. So I was talking about that, but we cannot.
Okay, you were talking about, like, the in American slang. Have you noticed that which this American, British, and everything has to do a lot with social class and social structure?
Yeah, really.
The nouveau riche, new money that we call, are more American oriented, and the traditionally rich, traditionally high class is more of British language, show a lot of British language adherence. It's all have to do about fashion and money and everything. Don't worry. It's not going anywhere. The authentic British language is going, no, it's not going anywhere as long as the world has money, and Britain still calls some shots. Basically, everything has to do with business and politics and power. For example, you can think, I have experienced it in a in like in front very much, the Telugu. So before Telangana division happened, the Telugu newspapers or Telugu news channels uh, all used to speak in Vijayawada or Vishakhapatnam variety. But uh, nowadays the Telangana varieties are all Telangana variety is also coming into the picture. So here, as Telangana got the status of uh, a state, and it has now power, political power and money power, the language, the people have that extra thing. Hello, am I still audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay.
Yes.
So that is how. Yes, someone else was speaking, probably Krishanu.
Ma'am, actually, I am tempted to ask a question
Yeah,
because
sure. Please go ahead.
actually we are studying English literature, and we are actually Bengali, and we are actually I mean use freely English language in our conversation than our predecessors do, and
Yeah,
and that is the problem actually that concerns me, that we sometimes know the actual Bengali words, and we actually then try to continue our conversation by using English words. And actually, is it not a matter of concern that our Bengali language is slowly decaying and English language is taking its position of the English,
not at all.
Bengali language?
Not at all. It is called code switching. Use it as an advantage. That is how all the languages try to give them the equal status. The moment you start thinking that this language is superior, this language is inferior, things start to get in problem. When if you give more importance to Bangla than English, then probably you will develop some prejudice. You will, and if you think that, well, I'm speaking in English, I don't know the word in Bangla. Oh my God. Oh no, don't do that. So in that way, both the languages will be affected. And code switching is a very normal thing. It's okay. It just shows that you have more than one language in your repertoire. It just means that your brain can switch very quickly, rather than just think of two compartments. Here you have English words, here you have your Bangla words. So when you are speaking in Bangla, probably the brain functions can't find the word here. So it quickly goes here and finds the word because it needs to show the efficiency. Okay.
Okay,
So
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
if you want
Thank.
to make things balanced, put equal amount of respect and emphasis on both the languages.
So, Dorupa, just to add something to what you just said, I think, what, if you kindly allow.
Yeah, yeah, please.
So, I think, Somnath, the question you asked, I think it is also about the politics of diglossia, what we actually, face in such, post-colonial societies, and what actually have worsened with globalization and the post-nationalism that have actually, crept in since 1980s. So I think I think it is somehow also related to the certain the assumptions and the certain directions of sociolinguistics, if I am not wrong, right?
Not at all. You're absolutely correct. So the thing is that very simple. If you worry that one language is your Bangla is being threatened, it's not. Okay. Don't put another language in the Kadgara. See, I'm doing code switching. Okay, don't put another language, blame on another language for threatening another language. It's the speakers, it's the people. It's the people and their mentality. That's all. For example, again, you can think about we all talk about encroachment of Hindi. Well, there are people who try to make Hindi as an uniform language for all over the country because, well, it has political gains. So it's all about the speakers of individual languages. If you can respect your language, if you know that you will protect it, but don't be closed, be open, take good things from other languages because practice internationalism, the concept of internationalism. Take good things, you should always take and give. And that is how you will be so rich. And code switching and multiple languages is always a superpower. I speak 11 languages, and that is my superpower. So in my Twitter bio, it's not there anymore. Uh, I used to write that I can flirt, bless, and curse in 11 languages. What is your superpower? Come on, it is my superpower. I can just go around. And it's said that, when you learn a new language, you you have another life, you can live another lifetime. So the more languages you know, the more languages you appreciate. It's basically you are increasing your lifespan. Well, not in terms of years, but in terms of your experience. You are enjoying the language. And also this means that you have more and more repertoire of, a bigger repertoire of memes to share, memes to understand. Yeah, Meenakshi.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. If you don't have any more questions, then I think we can close the session. Can we?
It's up to the students, Are you having any other questions?
Students, I would really like to answer your questions. Please speak. What should I do to make you people speak?
If you have any question, please unmute yourself and ask, ma'am.
It's
It
okay.
really feels bad to see those final semester students not asking any questions when they have this paper uh, in the sixth semester, and they will be writing the exam. I think in 2 weeks. So
It's okay. It's okay. It's again our
I hope they do tomorrow at least.
Yeah, of course.
it's okay.
Uh,
It's our Indian language, Indian education system is to be blamed for.
Yeah, but tomorrow our principal sir will be there. So students, be prepared. Okay, if ma'am asks you questions and you do
Well,
not respond, you
to
know
be
what
frank,
is going to
yeah,
happen.
Krishanu, to be frank, I was wondering that why the students they prioritized grammar more than pronunciation, and then I understood that yeah, this is not their fault. This is the fault of the system,
And it's
yeah,
right?
also because
Because
of,
in
I think
our
it's also because
in
of
the
their fear.
in the Bengali medium
They're
students
afraid.
in the Bengali medium students they learn through via the method of grammar translation,
Now, if you even
right?
ask me, when I was a student back in my college days, I used to be afraid of speaking out because of my pronunciation was not that up to the mark, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to get confused, like how will I formulate or frame the a sentence or something. So that is quite understandable that the students face
Hmm.
such kind of a problem. But
Hmm.
they should try to improve, right? They should work on that.
Yeah. So please consider this, that pronunciation is very important in terms of speaking, right? And grammar is important in terms of writing.
No, it's important for both. Grammar
Yeah,
is
yeah.
important
Right.
for both, but at the same time, well,
Hmm.
try to give
Now, but
importance.
don't puzzle your brain too much when you are trying to speak that, oh, it is grammatically it is right or wrong. Then it will be difficult for you, right?
It's okay. It's okay.
one
Well,
of my one of my teachers just uh, used to tell me once, Krishanu, don't think about anything when you are saying. Your sole motto is to make people understand, convey the sense. That's all. Whether you are grammatically right or grammatically wrong, do not try to pin on that every
Yeah, yeah,
single
I
time, so
agree.
that
I agree. Yeah, that was
it
my
will
point.
somehow.
Yeah, that was my point. I agree.
okay. So, if there are no questions, then shall I wrap up the session?
if not questions, anyone wants to share anything, I would
Yeah,
really
of course.
love to hear.
Students, from the
Yes, sir.
students. Anybody? Any comment? Any question? Any query?
Just share your things.
I think they have already left for lunch or what.
Yo, well,
Meenakshi, wrap it up.
Anyways,
Yeah.
wind it up.
yeah, yeah.
Meenakshi, yes.
So, it was really nice to listen to you, ma'am. On the behalf of the entire Department of English of our college, I would like to extend my warm regards to Dr. Sen for spending her precious time, for sharing her knowledge, and for helping out our students. So tomorrow, we shall be meeting again, and we look forward to another such interesting and enriching lecture. So thank you so much, ma'am.
thank you. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, students, for attending the class. And thank you, teachers, for giving me the opportunity to meet all of you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And I would also like to thank the organizers of this e-lecture series, Mr. Krishanu Adhikari and Mr. Vidhan Mondal.
Yeah,
For
Meenakshi, Sumit is
Why are
assisting us technically.
taking your name? You are also one of the
I would
organizers,
also
right?
like to thank
So thank you also
our
very much.
Kor for handling this technical thing. I would like to thank all the students also. Thank you so much. Let's meet again tomorrow.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.